And the subject today is hello, Aaron. Thank you. The subject today is don't feel frustration when people reject redemption. And I've been seeing this happen a lot. I've been seeing this happen a lot. We know there's a lot of guilty people out there right now who have done unspeakable things. They've done horrible things. And we're all sitting here under the pressure of this regime. Hi, Natasha. Good to see you this morning. Again, the topic is don't feel frustrated when people reject their chance at redemption. That's what I'm talking about. And I know, we know there's a lot of people out there who have information. They could go and testify. Hello. They could go and testify. They could bring some people down. They're adhering to this code of silence. And yesterday I saw Kat. She was reflecting on this and she was becoming really upset by this, by the fact that it's like, why wouldn't you? It's like, look, let's just, and the temptation is we can think, let's just apply a little bit of pressure. Let's try to convince people that they should stop being cruel and they should just embrace redemption. You know, it's the redemption arc. Let's celebrate the redemption arc. Let's give people that opportunity. And we should. Hello, Courtney. Hi. It's so wide open right now. This idea has just been on my mind. So please, your comments will be very helpful as I kind of come up with my thoughts right now. But there's something really important, and I think it's what the population of the United States has to understand. Because what we keep seeing in our society is a complete disregard. We have seen a complete disregard for kind people, people that have dedicated their whole life to decency. People are always on the right side. They get disregarded. Yeah, right. And and I think we've put these people in power that are just monstrous. You know, they're just monstrous. And and like I said, there's the second we see some Republican do something that appears as if he's embraced redemption, all of a sudden our entire focus goes to that one person. Like the only thing we care about. The only thing we celebrate in the United States is this false belief that there is this redemption arc and that evil people will see the error of their ways and that they'll come back and all of a sudden they'll be good. And that's why everybody on, Substack gives their money to people like Adam Kinzinger, even though he goes and celebrates, he called the attack on Venezuela the right call. But people then, even with further evidence, of just deplorable behavior, we saw that with Massey. We saw that with Massey when he turns on and votes for the SAVE Act. But they're like, well, he was redeeming himself because he stood up for, the Epstein Transparency Act. What you need to do in those moments is reflect and reevaluate what Massey's motivations might have been when he stood up and did the Epstein Transparency. Maybe he wasn't trying to help the survivors. You have to consider that based on his subsequent action. And this is just everybody in the United States, the whole population here, what's normalized. I mean, there's exceptions, obviously. There's always exceptions. Yeah, holding people accountable. But I think we need to examine what I'm trying to get into is the psychology. Who's not here? I don't know what they're saying. What I'm trying to get into is the psychology of the American people who disregard decency. They just blatantly disregard it. I don't know if they're just embarrassed by the example of actually truly decent people. They have disparaging comments for them. And our focus is entirely on this hope that these awful people are going to embrace the possibility of redeeming themselves. And I've passed through this in my life. I remember having a conversation with somebody when I first went to Peru, and it was somebody I just met. Hello, Amber. Good to see you. It was somebody I just met, and I was telling her about these problems I had, particularly with my father, who just refused to see certain things. I would try to have conversations. There were doors that were just closed. And I said, if we open this door, perhaps we can have better things. And he would refuse to open that door. And it led to a point of just breaking. Hey, Michelle, good to see you this morning. It led to a point of breaking where, like, I have to go through this door. And then they sit there saying, well, then you're leaving me and you're cruel and you're evil. And as I walk out, I start seeing more beautiful things and you keep being hopeful. Like, oh, wait, see, it's obvious. This is the right way to go. This is better. This is what we should do. And you keep turning back. Those people are like, well, come in here and tell me about it. So they try to pull you back. And you go tell them, it's like, "I have to go again. It's better that over there." And they just refuse to come with you. I remember telling this just stranger I had met about this, and I started to cry because it's like, why won't they embrace the path of redeeming themselves? Why won't they? And I kept putting it on me. And at some point, you have to step away and you have to recognize they're making that choice and it's not has nothing to do with you. And then the United States were caught in that perpetual state of frustration and grief. I've seen too many people, they're just insistent. They keep holding out hope. Oh, I'm sure a couple of the Republicans. I mean, I'm laughing because it's just absurd. There's like, I'm sure a couple of them are decent people. And why are you assuming that? You have to be careful about these things that you assume. And meanwhile, they're out there. I mean, the thing, Elizabeth Sillick LaRouche shared it. Nick Fuentes was just talking about rounding up all the women. I mean, this stuff is, we think of it, well, that's just a fringe thing, we say, or that'll never happen. People have been saying that for 15 years. All those things have been happening. All those things have been happening. And the mass of the population in the United States of America wants to believe that they're just not evil people. They don't want to think that. Oh, they're not evil. They just need, they're going to embrace redemption. All we have to do is push them a little harder. They're not going to. At some point, we have to just accept. We have to accept that, and it's the Maya Angelou quote. And once they show you who they are, you have to believe them. We're not believing them. That's a more profound quote than anybody releases. Yeah. Don Don writes, "I just woke up from a coma. They found the weapons of mass destruction." Yeah, but yes, I mean, they've been lying to us our whole lives. Their whole lives. At some point, just accept they're bad people, and we sit there being frustrated. And Courtney says, "Good point earlier, Walter. Maybe focus more on why they don't want to change, rather than being upset that they won't." Yes, we don't have to feel that frustration. You have to get to that point, and that frustration is because you are guilty of wishful thinking. That is on you if you're feeling frustrated by what they're doing and how they continually cheat us. This happened to me at the end of the election in 20 so I'm not trying to lecture people because I've been guilty of this myself too. But after the 2024 election, something's changed in my mind and I'm like, "All right, you showed me. You are evil people. You're evil people." And I'm no longer going to be and the frustration I was feeling was because I kept hoping that they would prove to me that they weren't. And now I'm done because I know what they are. I see what they are. I believe them. Yeah, they've entirely betrayed the country, the people, period. They cheat. At some point, you guys, we all need to have this grievance mentality. White supremacists cheat at everything that they do. They do not have a single contest that they do not cheat. And so they cheated in 2024. This has been stolen. Imagine what's been stolen from us. I mean, we could have had a brilliant, compassionate person. And I know people have their criticisms of Kamala Harris, but when she speaks, you can see compassion in her face. I see compassion and hear intelligence. And I know she would have been a person who wouldn't have tolerated a government run by pedophiles. And she worked at McDonald's, you know? She's had a life of struggle where she's actually had to do things and work hard. And we keep looking at this entitlement class that doesn't believe it's above or has to follow any laws, even like basic laws of human decency. And we keep hoping that they will redeem themselves. And you know why we hope that they will redeem themselves? We hope they will redeem themselves because we're lazy. Sorry. That's what it is, because we don't want to fight them. We don't want to hold them accountable as they need to be held accountable. It's easier. If you've got an abusive dad, you're just, if he just stops beating on me, then everything will be fine. So you endure him beating on you. Well, maybe he'll just stop. You endure him beating it. You get more and more frustrated. He's never going to stop unless you make him stop. That's the reality of it. Let me go through a couple of these comments. They've been really good. They betrayed the country. We have to almost assume the worst in every case, and that's absolutely true, Natasha K. Yeah, we have to, because they've shown us again and again they're deplorable. These things that they're saying and they're passing off. Oh, that's no thing. The guy said he was going to be a dictator when he was campaigning. Oh, he doesn't really mean that. He does mean that. He's a convicted felon. He openly brags about sexually assaulting women. At this point, it's like the people and they're still taking the wrong approach to, like, the Epstein files. If your name's in there, you better prove we should assume that they were, like, murdering and raping and torturing kids if their name is in there. There's no innocent people, and if they are innocent, they can prove that. But just their names being in those files means that we should not go to any business where that employs them, not buy any product that they sell, complete complete economic, embargo on everybody in the Epstein files. And then they have to come forward and start proving themselves, and as they prove themselves and they talk about it, we get to the truth of the matter. But we're all conditioned. I mean, just the level of conditioning in American society that makes the general public unwilling to uncover or pursue the truth is how we got here. Yeah, Michelle says, "Evil is absolutely in charge right now. 100% evil is in charge." And at some point, it's kinda breaking through because 'cause we're talking about the brutal torture and rape of, in some cases, babies. Some of these latest, files are indicating. And so at that point, you have to shake off your lethargy. You have to stop embracing this frustration and this sadness because, "Oh, these people that I care about, why can't they why can't they turn away from their evil ways?" I mean, you have to turn away from that mindset and understand that you have to oppose them because they're torturing the innocent. They are torturing the innocent. And so that change in that mindset starts in our hearts. And I mean, this is where the resistance is at. This is what we all have to do. I'm going to continue to scroll here. Yeah, she laughed at the guy waking up from under the weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, and we do have to joke. I mean, that Don, that's a wonderful comment. I do it. I've been breaking out into dance. I actually reflected on it because in that live with Eric and Nick and Evan, it was just getting to be so much, and these weeks start piling on you that gets heavier and heavier, and you feel helpless, and you have to move, and that helps you feel your power again. And then I was pushing poor Natasha to dance, and she was like, "I don't dance." I was like, I apologize for that. But I just have to do it. I have to move. I have to recover, but it doesn't mean I'm not taking things seriously. We have to restore our own personal energy and our own personal strength. And we have to remind ourselves that we don't have to do nothing. We have other actions besides just hoping bad people will find redemption. That's like the only thing that's pushed in the United States. Like there's this belief when it comes to these evil white supremacists. When it comes to the innocent people who have done nothing wrong, the white supremacists reserve the right to brutally attack them and defile them and torture them and do all these awful things. But for some reason, the rest of us just keep allowing the white supremacists to do whatever they want, hoping that they will redeem themselves. It's just this is what we have to change, and this is a big part of it. When the collective mass of the American public gives itself permission to stand up to abusers, demand that the abuse must stop, insist, and start recognizing the election was stolen from us. We have that grievance. They've stolen so much from us at this point. The white supremacists have stolen everything from us. The feckless Democrats don't stand up to them because they've got this whole redemption arc. Democrats like Adam Kinzinger more than they like Bernie Sanders. Doesn't make any fucking sense. And that has to change. All that has to change. And it's going to happen bit by bit. I find I always get just flooded with comments by these people who get all smug. Somebody I was just like, yeah, tax the billionaires. This guy's like, well, that sounds like a Walter Mondale policy. That's a surefire way for Democrats to lose. It's like, Democrats already lost, you jackass. They always lose. They lose when they listen to assholes who and people I think are racist, like James Carville. They lose. When you listen to the centrist Democrats, they lose. When we elect people like Fetterman, who then votes for the Republicans, we lose. We have to clean house. There are a whole lot. We need to expel every pro-life Democrat because pro-life is white supremacy. Expel them. This big tent idea is a great idea. But first, we have to expel the monsters. I mean, you don't get to allow child rapists into your big tent. That's common sense. And if at first it looks like we are shrinking, that's fine. But once we get rid of all the saboteurs, we'll become empowered to actually achieve a better society. That's what we need to do. Let me keep rolling here. Yeah, I joked to you from Brian. I was a natural optimist, but that changed and it was very painful. Yeah, I mean, I've gone through that period in my life too. When you're a powerless kid and you're trying to appeal to the people you love, you're trying to earn you feel that. And we give that to our mentors and our parents. We give them our unconditional love and our unconditional trust. And those that betray it are the worst people in the world. And this was the critical point in my life when I decided to stop trying to earn the approval of monsters and I would instead turn and look forward and earn the approval of my children. And that was a critical thing because that allowed me to just openly see that my children were beautiful and perfect as they were. The idea of original sin is one of the most cruel and obscene ideas ever proposed. I hate that idea because if people are thinking that they see in their children, if original sin teaches parents to see evil in their perfect children, that's a foul mentality. Your children are perfect. I looked into my children, I saw perfection and beauty and love, and I recognized that the only evil that they would ever have was evil that I taught them. So I took it very seriously from the moment they were babies to not teach them evil, and it made me a better person. But it all comes from looking forward and making the decision to celebrate decency over than being fixated on this redemption art bullshit that never happens. It makes us prisoners, which makes us perpetually frustrated because evil people, they just use that to try to keep us engaged in their flawed and abusive relationship. Who's GM? Is that me? That's from Eric. I'm going to scroll down a bit more. Yeah. Apple's in the orange one. Hi, Margaret. I just saw that you showed up. It's wonderful to see you. I really appreciate Margaret and her positive energy. Getting back our own personal power is our issue right now, and it starts with just giving ourselves permission to think about things in a certain way. And again, I'm going to go back to it again. After the 2024 election, something changed in my mind. I wrote a story about it because oddly, all the frustration I'd been feeling, anger and frustration, all the way up to the election, and then it went away because I accepted that the people of this country allowed a white supremacist, monstrous human being into a position of power. And I just accepted what that told me about them. Accept the reality of the cruelty that this country embraces. And then we're empowered to change it. Don't give anybody the benefit of the doubt right now. Don't give them the benefit of the doubt. Until every child is released from the concentration camps, until every agent who has raped a woman or murdered a woman is locked up, until everyone who is guilty of abusing and torturing children is locked up. Don't give anybody the benefit of the doubt right now. Oh, wow. This is an interesting comment from Amber. It says, on average, it takes 7 attempts before a victim of domestic abuse successfully leaves that relationship. When people go no contact with their family, it often follows years of ruptures and attempts to repair until you realize you realize they aren't willing to change. We just need to accept that we can't make them see the light. We can't make them change. They have to make that choice on their own. And we have to accept that day may never come. Yes. Don't make yourself a prisoner to a person who refuses to be a decent human being. We can't wait around for them. That only hurts us and makes us resentful. I left the country. I went and lived in South America. Email was fairly new when that happened, but I could still completely drop off the map. And just you don't understand the tidal wave of abuse that you're getting from these people, the constant pressures. Social media is awful for it. Social media, you're constantly getting attacked by these bots that are trying to maintain an abusive norm. They always try to make you think that you're wrong for demanding more. We should all be paid 3 times as much, and that's a conservative estimate is what we're being paid right now. Evil, rich people are exploited. I had somebody the other day who's just like, you can't make generalizations. Not all evil people are rich. And I'm like, that's a generalization, what you just said. You're using generalizations even as you denounce generalizations. That's how contorted your worldview is. The fact is, anybody who has enough money to help other people and refuses to do so is evil. It's flat out obvious. And this this performative charity of the rich, they got a net worth of $1 billion and they give somebody a couple $1,000 and you read in the papers and we're supposed to celebrate the person. And then other people in your sphere start pressuring you. It's like the only reason that person has. And the other point is the only reason they have that money is because they stole it from you. But money, again, it's invented. It's not a thing. It's not even real. They just create the money so that they can make us think we need it. And then they can abuse us as they dole it out. So just change your mindset on this. Well, that's true. There is a spectrum, but I mean, geez, the level right now, I mean, the cruelty, the people right now of what people are doing. Courtney is saying, I feel like evil has become shorthand and encouraged binary thinking. And binary thinking, yes, is incorrect. That I often talk about they always use that political spectrum of left, right, center. That's complete bullshit. Binary thinking, there is not left, right, center. If you draw another axis in there, you get this. If you do like, what do they often say? Left, right, center, and then like authoritarianism versus complete like chaos. You build that, you get this whole different setup. You get a whole different representation of what our true political reality is. Yes, I wrote a whole article about how thinking. You add another axis in there, and you get a much better perception of the world. A straight line doesn't tell you a whole lot, and you're right. So, and this is one of those exploratory talks. So sometimes my language is going to be a little bit all over the place. But I appreciate that comment, Courtney. I'm gonna have to. I should actually republish that article I wrote about how binary models. I mean, that's Stone Age stuff. Binary models. It's either this or that. It's 0 or 1, and so much of our thinking is defined by that. Like, the center doesn't exist. That's the other thing, because it's like the binary system, we have these people like centrists, and they present themselves as being moderate. It's like, well, this is clearly the right place to be because I'm at the middle between two extremes. Except that the model you're deriving that opinion from is completely flawed. And we see the center play the sides against each other. They play the left against the right. Martin Luther King Jr. said, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he said that it's the moderates that are the cause of all our suffering, and they are. I talked about that yesterday. They're the ones that do love bombing so that they know exactly how much they can torture you, and then they give you just a little bit of kindness so that they can prolong the period of torture. They're more evil. The center is. Um, my chair dance. Okay, good. That's funny. We have a whole lot of atoning to do. Yeah, yeah. The whole country does. All good people. I think atoning. We're afraid of atonement. But the reality is, atoning for your mistakes frees you, and that's the thing. I think socially, we shouldn't be socially afraid of making up for our mistakes. We should pay our debts. We should have reparations. When we hurt people, we should try to fix the hurt, and that should be our whole cultural identity. Instead, our whole cultural identity is about justifying evil people who exploit us and how we're somehow wrong if we call them out on the fact that they're stealing from us and hurting from us. That has to change. That's what have to change. It's not easy to say this, and again, this is why I'm kinda doing these lives. I used to try to do this with, like, my 1,000-word essays, and I'm still writing those. I'm bringing a lot of essays in that I wrote 4 years ago, and people are liking the ones I wrote 4 years ago more now than they did then, because I think it's a lot more obvious, but they read differently now. Everything was predicted. We could see everything coming. But the first part here, yes, and it takes a long time to change how you think, to change the chemistry of your brain. Takes time. And a lot of it is just allowing. I would love it if everybody got to the point where they stopped feeling that sadness and frustration when evil people kept doing evil things. We should be feeling empowerment. It's like, okay, you've just shown who you are. Now, every action I'm going to take is to oppose you. It's done now. We are no longer at the point where we are engaging in compromise and working together. No, you have to be opposed. And I mean, like, this whole idea government is there to compromise. It is between two rational perspectives. We don't compromise with pedophiles. We don't compromise with terrorists. And that's the mindset you have to have. We should all be going. If there's a local Republican office in your area, go there and talk to them. Ask them about the fact that they are defending, their whole political party is defending pedophiles. Make them cry, make them feel ashamed. Do not be violent, do not be hostile. You can speak rationally. And once you stop feeling that frustration that they try to impose on us, that is the theft of our power, then you become more effective at changing other people, or at least holding them accountable, or at least stopping them. Yeah, atoning. Atoning is good. Okay, keep going here. And yeah, there's so much we can do. So much we can do. We have a lot more power. And that's the whole thing about abusers. Abusers do this to you, and that's that sadness you feel, that frustration. A lot of it is because you're frustrated because you've surrendered your own power to give other people the chance to redeem themselves. Stop doing that. Engage your own power. Be a force of integrity. Be a force of decency. Be a force of good. Actively work. I used to do it in secret. I used to be kind in secret because I knew I couldn't do it. Now I can be kind openly anywhere along that spectrum. As Courtney you mentioned that before, is fine. We're all making progress towards this goal. So do it, and embrace your power, be decent, allow yourself. So much of our societies, we have all these lies that are told that make us go against the urgings of our heart. And it takes a whole lifetime to use that white supremacy indoctrination to absolutely corrupt the human heart. That's why the worst of them, these child molesters and child murderers they're in their 60s and 70s because they've been intoxifying themselves their whole lives. But all you have to do at this point is just shut off your thoughts and just follow what your heart says to do. If you see, if you see, I mean, if you see a puppy and it makes you feel, oh, that's beautiful, just allow yourself to experience that feeling. We shut that off because my dad used to say, he's like, you get a puppy, you just fall in love with it, and then you're sad when it dies. So don't even feel the love. And that's white supremacy indoctrination. It makes you cut off from the good feelings that are what make life worth having. And that's why people feel so frustrated because the evil people are never going to choose redemption. They're just not going to. And they're not going to specifically. Redemption still means something. You have to stop them. It's sort of like we want to give them opportunity as if we think that the only way that redemption can matter or if it takes is if we allow them the opportunity to have themselves. I get so many people that come in and it's like, well, if we push against them, we're just going to make them more set in their ways. It's like they're raping kids. They're murdering kids and they're raping kids. We have to stop them. You have to oppose them. I mean, you guys got to put it in context here. Think of what people are saying lately. It's insane. I apologize. I'm not supposed to use that word. It's immoral. It's immoral. I can't do that. So much we can do. We do have power. And that's the other thing. Just keep remembering that we have power. Accountability needs to be real. Here we go, Eric. Look at the recent posts. Yeah, I was just talking about that. He wants to imprison all women. And don't be dismissive. Don't sit here and say, well, they'll never be able to do that. You take that as serious. That guy should just that statement. I mean, any place, and there's so much we can do. Look at all the places that report what Nick Fuentes has to say. If it's on websites, never go to that website again. Send a letter to that website. I'm never gonna come back here again because they all require advertisers. They all require our economic power in order. We keep supporting these evil people who then make us cry and feel frustrated every time abuses. Stop crying. Stop being with people that make you cry. Once they do, turn away. It doesn't matter if it's your father or your children or the person you think you're in love with. Turn away from those people. There are people out there who won't make you cry daily. There are people who aren't afraid of you having power. And the only reason they fear us having power is because they think we will hold them accountable for their crimes. So they suppress us. There's this massive mechanism, this spider web that keeps us entrapped. And it is built upon our own inherent sense of decency. And we have to remember that we are still decent people if we oppose evil people, because if we oppose cruel people who abuse children and things like that. I'm being careful. I'm trying to these comments and the words I use, I'm trying to remember. And sometimes as I'm kind of quickly speaking here, they just come out. But you're right. I mean, we shouldn't use that kind of binary terms. But people who are engaging in cruelty and who have brought cruelty into their heart, we have to oppose them. And we can't sit there passively and be like, please redeem yourself, because you're disregarding the children that they're abusing. And we have to think of the children they're abusing. We have to stop it. If somebody's beating on a puppy with a pipe, you don't sit there frustrated saying, won't you please stop beating on that puppy with a pipe? Please stop that. And then it makes you all sad and frustrated. That's an opportunity to use your strength. Use your body to shield the puppy and then turn around and take away the pipe. That's what the mindset has to be. I mean, sometimes when you talk about in terms of puppies instead of children getting abused for some weird reason, it resonates more. But these are the things we have to work on. Yeah. Yeah, we have to, and somebody pointed it out the other day. I'm finishing with Eric's comment. These are wonderful comments. Thank you, guys. Somebody mentioned the other day, we should invest the same amount of money they're investing into ICE right now and go around the country and arrest all the pedophiles and the white supremacists. And you know what? If they go house to house and they make all white men strip down and look for white supremacy tattoos, you can do it because I don't have those. Take a picture of me. I don't care. No white supremacy tattoos. Arrest the ones that do, put them into deprogramming camps. And then you instantly do that, you'll instantly see a decline in crime. You'll see a decline in child abuse. And it'll make the society better. And we have to deprogram. I'm not saying we should subject anyone to the cruelty of these concentration camps that the white supremacists are using right now. But we should use our funds to deprogram these evil people instead of sitting around waiting for them to redeem themselves and then not teaching true history in school because that makes the white supremacists upset. All that is wrong. We have to fix all that. So thank you for those wonderful comments, Eric. Amber says she agreed with something I said probably 20 minutes ago. So thank you, Amber. We have to be ground up candidates. We have to hold our representatives responsible. And I've been saying too, I mean, it's pretty clear the Epstein stuff goes back to his first complaint was in 1996, goes back a long way. And at this point, no administration is honest. I think they've defiled the presidency going back to its inception. I mean, especially like the last 40 years, everybody's been guilty of this. They've all turned their heads. I'm just so disgusted with people like Pelosi, who keeps endorsing like pro-life Democrats, which are white supremacist Democrats. Can't have them, have to get them out of the party. And then they go like that Cuellar. Pelosi endorsed him over Jessica Cisneros. I just reached out to her. She was a brilliant person. And of course, Pelosi pushed this awful one in who he got a pardon from the current president, and then he voted for the SAVE Act. We have Pelosi to thank for that. And look, stop with the idea. Like, just because somebody did a good thing once 50 years ago, all of a sudden we're beholden to them for the rest of our life. The second they do something just cruel, that's who they are. Accept it. Don't be frustrated. Oppose them. Make them redeem themselves. Again, you don't have to forgive people just because they say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Their job is to restore, is restoration at that point. They have to restore and remove all the pain they inflicted. So change that in your mind. You have a right to demand that of the people that inhabit your sphere. This is the only life you get. Don't surround yourself by toxic, cruel people who abuse you, who berate you for asking for to be treated with basic human dignity. Yeah, we have to fundamentally change that philosophy. When I stop getting comments, like the notes, these comments are wonderful, but when I post a note or an article, I routinely get these haughty people who come in and start lecturing me and start accusing me of being infantile and all these things, even though they're pushing a centrist strategy that has failed again and again and again. And they can't see it. And it's weird because sometimes they do sound like intelligent people, but what they don't realize is they're repeating a line that they've been indoctrinated to believe. And often you see this, and academic communities have to fix these things because a lot of the academic communities promote these things. They're just because somebody inhabits an office, we have to go back to the scientific method. Just because somebody inhabits an office or they have a reputation doesn't mean you shouldn't question the things that they're saying. Let's question those things. If you question them, they can provide proof, and if it holds up, they're legit. But if they tell you not to question, it's probably because they're not legit. All right, let me go through some more here. Yeah. Yeah, the concept of original sin is the original sin. It's one of the most disgusting things. It is another just horrific abuse of human beings is the idea that suicide is the unforgivable sin. Think how cruel that is. Because they knew that they were treating people living in slavery and whatnot with such inhumanity that they wanted to end their own lives just to escape. So they had to invent this lie to make people afraid of ending their own lives, which was their one escape from the constant torment of their existence. It's one of the most horrible things I ever think of. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you. I try to be better. I try to be better every day. Hi, Beth. And then oh, yeah, Natasha's saying kind of Margaret. Good morning. Everyone, let me read this. We need to have a consequence for violating the oath of office. Yeah, I think one of the things we have to adopt too is just some background checks to make people qualified to be, you shouldn't be. I mean, if you got to pass a background check to get a job like in the FBI and the CIA, shouldn't you have to pass that same background check to be president? I don't think that exists. I think they can nominate anybody. It's just ridiculous flaw in our system. There should be vetted candidates. I mean, and it's like they're hiring people for ICE right now without really vetting to see what kind of cruelties they've been guilty of in the past. All right, what does this say? We have a constitution to deal with our also natural indecency. They have trashed the Constitution. I wrote an article recently about one of the inherent flaws of the Constitution is it assumes all people are bad, and so then it is a good thing to have the division of powers. But it was written by. I mean, the Constitution was written by horrible men who owned slaves and abused them. They were child rapists. The founding fathers were just deplorable, awful people, and they wrote a Constitution trying to say, okay, we can't trust any other human beings. But the reality is there are good human beings in our society. And I think what they inadvertently created was a society where only evil people could rise to positions of power. So we have to change that. Yeah, it's time for America's moment of accountability. Other countries have had to do this. Well, la-di-da, that happens to be our responsibility. We're born in this time, and we have to push these changes for the future, not just for our country, but for all of humanity. All right. Hippy dippy. Nice, nice name. These conversations are validating me in so many ways. Divorce. Yeah. I mean, oh, these narcissistic white male. Yeah. Oh, gosh, that's a whole line. Divorcing a narcissistic white supremacist alcoholic who made me feel naive and less than for decades, 26 years. Again, our whole American culture is based on the same narcissistic model of abuse. So if you read about narcissistic abuse, you will have a very good understanding of how American culture works. And those of us who've actually had been abused in these situations, we've seen it from the other side. Because I think if you've only been the narcissist or you've only inflicted pain on people and you've kind of been free of any consequences, there would be a kind of intoxicating effect where you would get high on that. I just wrote an article about it. Yeah, you are like an addict, like an alcoholic or a drug addict. You hurt people, and that's what gets you a high. But if you've been on the other side, if you endured the pain, if you've been mistreated and abused, then you can see this mechanism has to be taken down. And this is why I trust women for office more than men, and particularly women from marginalized groups. When we you know, and we were so close, but it was stolen from us again. And you should all be angry because we were on the verge of having a compassionate and accomplished black woman as our president, and we vote. That's what we voted for. And the white supremacists stole it. They stole our votes and they stole our future, and they're stealing from us every moment. They're going to be stealing our lives if they can. And the sooner we just accept that's our reality, stop being frustrated, stop expecting them to be different or to find some form of integrity when they've spent their whole lives conditioning themselves, not only themselves to deny their integrity, but to normalize it within our whole culture to the extent where people will come to me out of the blue who know nothing about me and lecture me about how I need to adopt a mentality that enables abusers. I mean, that's where we're at. Okay, gone 3 years. Yep, and still battling through toxic divorce. It's crazy to feel surrounded by this same evil. At the same time, those of us who have lived this life understand it at a cellular level. Yep, strength to you, hippy dippy. And I mean, it took me. I had to go. I lived in Peru for 10 years, and it took basically the whole 10 years for me to reprogram how I thought about things and to find my own sense of center and to come into my power. And this is the thing. Those abusers just beat you down. They spend all of their time, and you can't be like this as a parent. So many parenting flaws come from this normalization of narcissism, which is the American culture. White supremacy is American culture. And inadvertently, so many parents just beat down their kids. They spend their whole time because they're told they know what's wrong in their heart. Lies like spare the rod and spoil the child. You know that's wrong in your heart. You don't want to hit your kids. But white supremacy attacks your conscious thinking, and it makes you think, well, this is for the greater good. And so it exploits our longing and our insecurities and our desires to do better and our lack of self-confidence. And so we think to ourselves, why is my kid going to be angry at me later if I don't hit them? And their kid is never going to be angry at you later for not hitting them. But it's so normalized in our culture, and it takes a lot of personal integrity and fortification to push back against that, because every day in my life as a parent, people were pressuring me, telling me I did it wrong, and I just had to disregard it every single day. That's hard to do, but yes, thank you, Hippy Dippy, saying this is a validating conversation. Hopefully, I'm empowering all of you to put aside that white supremacy indoctrination, that tidal wave, which is constant. Push it aside. Feel empowered. You can follow your own personal integrity. You can be a decent human being instead. You don't have to do what the society tells you to do. And as we grow in our strength and we reach out to more people will do this, and we'll have a better world then. We will reprogram the American mentality and we will obliterate white supremacy. That's our goal. Again, strength to you, hippy dippy. Courtney, it's not that I think a lot of people aren't evil, regardless of political beliefs. I just think the word, yep, you're right, you're right. Well, yeah, elevates to monsters. They don't deserve to be mythologized, greedy and moral. Well, the ones that are I mean, they're the stories about them, I mean, some of the stories are so horrible about them, like, murdering and eating babies, so and I guess yeah, that's a valid comment, though, but geez, at some point, we have to fortify ourselves, and we have to stop the abuses that are being committed against children. You're making a very good point, Courtney. That's a very good point. We do have to be careful about that. That's something I've thought about a lot. I'm not 100% Not 100% certain in my thoughts. I constantly change these things, and it's always from the wonderful comments from the thoughtful people here come along. So thank you for that. So sorry you're going through that, hippie. I like seeing the support for the other people. Thank you for sharing in the comments, and thank you for being courteous. These comments are wonderful. So yeah, and thank you, Amber, for supporting Hippie Dippy. And that is hard. Getting through that is hard, and I wish I'd have had somebody at along there to give me a little bit more support. I was going through those moments. So yeah, I gotta find that article on binary thinking again. I published it a while ago, but I'll dig it up. It didn't do all that well on Medium. It made me mad because it was a better article than I think it got credit for. But I'll share it again. Yep. Again, strength to hippie. It occurred to me yesterday that so much of Al-Anon, I don't know what that is. Oh, okay. It's sickening when the toxicity is all around us. How do we find what we can control? Yeah, I think that's really important. I think we start with that sense of frustration because I know this is the thing. I'm going to keep coming back to this. But after the election, I was building frustration. I was getting really, really angry leading up to the November 2024 election. And after, when the white supremacists stole it from us, um, the frustration went away. And I've been kind of processing that for a whole year. These things are happening. We're not in charge of ourselves. I mean, you think your conscious mind, there's two parts of you. There's your inner integrity, which knows what's happening, and then there's your conscious mind. And those things kind of work in balance. You program yourself with that. And this was a case where my integrity, my inner part, finally got through to my conscious mind and helped me put aside some things that I've been trying to make myself believe. So we end up indoctrinating ourselves. In addition to being externally indoctrinated, we're trying to go along. It's that old thought of, in my family, I'm like, well, because you're accepting, you're powerless. I thought I was powerless as a child in my family. Well, this is the power figure. I have to live within the umbrella of his toxic authority. And in believing that, I was depriving myself of achieving my own power. But little by so I would hide a lot of things from him. I was reading things that he didn't want me to read. I was studying things he didn't want me to study. I was lying to him constantly. And then I was feeling guilty because we have this pressure that we shouldn't lie to the authority figure. Lying is wrong, lying is bad. It's like, yeah, I have to lie to protect my own internal autonomy. And eventually you grow to the point where you're like, I'm powerful enough, I don't need this person anymore. Then you make your ultimatum. It's like, look, either you treat me better, you find redemption, or you're gone. That's what we all have to do. And he chose to be gone, and then now he blames me as if it was my choice, which is how the gaslighting ends, and then you end up in that perpetual, state where he's just constantly and he sends his flying monkeys out into the world to say bad things about me, so people meet me, and they're like, "Wait, me talking to you is odd because all these things I'd heard about you." I'm like, "Alright, let's explore where you heard about those things." But so many people don't even bother to trace back where their ideas come from, where their thoughts come from, because we've all been indoctrinated to just kind of normalize these abusive, toxic ideologies. And that's where our power is if we start tracking those things down. That's why people say, I got the receipts, track those things down, see what people are really about, allow yourself then to believe it, and the frustration goes away. That the tears start going away. The hysteria, because I'll get hysterical too. I'll get angry and start talking about things and you realize a lot of that stuff sometimes it's normal to get furious about kids getting murdered and things like that and tortured. But other times you're feeling this hysteria and it's something internal. It's because you're not allowing yourself to believe something your heart knows to be true. And once you remove that barrier, you become a lot more powerful. So you just live your heart and mind can be unified. They can be. It's just that our society pushes us to make that not possible. Okay. Hope that helped Trish D's comment. Scott says, after 15 years as a recovering alcoholic, I have had to make many amends. Change takes work. And I've been doing that too. It's so rewarding. I've approached people from the past and apologized for things. Sometimes they're just grateful and some of them have said that I'm ridiculous, that I never did anything that they thought needed to be apologized for. And so, but even in those cases, I'm free of that guilt that I'd been carrying. And it just is so much better to liberate yourself of all these things. And American society it burdens us with all these things that aren't true and all these expectations that aren't going to ultimately be good for us. So it's worth examining these things and you will come into your power. You'll realize you have more power than you believe. Yeah. And take out a billboard ad. Yeah. Well, we talked about that. Cost prohibitive. But I think, a billboard ad, people just drive by it. These conversations, thank you guys for giving me your time. and for us to work through this. Like I said, I'm not an expert on this, and I'm kind of throwing it at you like darts, but hopefully it's giving you something to think about. And your comments are wonderful. Excuse me. A couple people joining. The awakenings have been waves rolling in. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And this is every article I've written for the last 4 years, and I think that's why some of the articles I wrote 4 years ago are more well received than the articles I'm writing today, because it's just like, okay, here's something I put in on my journey. I put this into this word, these words. And sometimes in just like a short article, it can really resonate. It can change your life. I always compare it to opening those doors because we get caught in that cyclical thinking because we think there's no other path, right? When that happens, you have to reevaluate something you've always assumed to be true. And that's hard to do. And the reality is we just have to accept a lot of the things that we've always assumed to be true are just blatant lies. You see that when the white supremacists get on news, they're just like, well, everybody knows that, and they say something that's a normalized belief that's not true. Just start accepting that every single rich person is an evil person. Just accept that. And then see what happens, see what opens up. And once you give yourself permission to think these things, the example I like to use a lot is in the films when, you have like a love triangle, and it's like one character appears to be the good character and is actually evil. The audience knows that character is evil. The other one appears to be evil but is actually good, and so then there's that process. This is just a trope. And then usually in the film, there's a point where, okay, the evil person finally gets caught doing something evil, and then there's the the moment of awakening or the moment of awareness, and now all of a sudden, yes. But prior to that, the protagonist was in conflict because their heart knew which was the good person, but their conscious mind was trying to tell them to go the other way. But then they finally get to that moment where they see the example of evil, and now their conscious mind becomes in alignment with their heart, and they're able to choose the right partner. What's the one? Bridget Jones's Diary is a film like that. That does that. So this happens in a lot of ways. It's not just in romance. A romance is a good example because those emotions are so strong, and we actually see, okay, our heart is actually, that's when our heart talks to us. But our heart talks to us in a lot of different things, like in who we should vote for, and we disregard it a lot. And that's where they steal our power. Because we know what the right thing to do is. We know what decency is and justice is. We know. And American society is designed to use our brains to trick us into doing the opposite. And we do become guilty of evil and pain and suffering when we listen to these things. And then when we start saying, hey, America is conditioning us to be evil, and people say, well, you hate America now, and so then that makes us be quiet. And that's all the stuff that we have to overcome, but it is this huge tidal wave of things pressuring us to do evil acts, to hurt people, to live in a society where we don't have universal health care. I mean, that's ridiculous. How is it that we can't, have a conversation with your neighbor about how much it costs? There was that GoFundMe with James Vanderbeek, and it's just sort of like, let's do it. I know, let's do a GoFundMe for the whole society. That way everybody is taken care of. But we put these Band-Aids and they presented, he's a guy, he just bought a ranch for like $5 million, and everybody's like contributing to his GoFundMe account. I mean, his family already has more than my family ever will. And then now the whole society, pulls its belt tighter to ensure he gets millions of extra dollars. His family gets millions of extra dollars. And we just are disregarding the reality that nobody in our country should go bankrupt because of healthcare. And, and even like this GoFundMe thing, it's like, yeah, I want his children to be taken care of. But, since they've gotten bailed out by the general public, I think they should at least dedicate the rest of their life to advocating for universal health care. But they won't, because you get these people that are constantly outside of that cycle of accountability. The abused are the only ones who ever know accountability, and we have to pay the accountability that belongs to other people. We are saddled with the debt of others. That's not fair. And we need to change that. We have a right to change it. All right. Yep, the awakenings have been rolling in. That was a great comment. Shut off your thoughts. Do it every now and then. Yes, shut off your thoughts and figure out. And I think scrolling is how they try to program your conscious mind. That jitteriness you get when you haven't been on your cell phone for a while. That's how you're getting programmed. Go for a walk in nature instead, and you'll get back in touch with your heart. You'll feel better, and you'll become more powerful. You're more powerful if you do that. People are caught up in their rage instead of their compassion and love. Yeah, and I think that rage is a lot of it is because we know we've been programmed to believe a bunch of bullshit that takes us away from who we want to be. And we know that on some level. And once people give you permission to just disregard, it's like it's right. It's wrong. It's wrong to abuse kids. It's wrong for businesses. All these things. Michelle Tahou came to mind recently too, because she was talking about in her book, it's a wonderful book, Trailer Park Rules. She talks about how these trailer park people buy the trailer park, and then they also have to pay for the lot. And so the people that own the lots can increase the price. And so they just exploit poor people. They just increase, because you're stuck. You're trapped then. And there's so many mechanisms like that that are just cruel. And so much of the wealth in our society comes from that, from those established, normalized means of cruelty. And we have to get rid of them. We have to remove them. We have to dismantle them. It's going to take a little bit of time, a lot of time, but we have to do it. And just a little bit of start though, and just if we have 110 people that are a little bit better with this kind of language, starts going fast because this is infectious, and they spend a lot of money. Evil spends a lot of money promoting their hate ideology. That's why white supremacists always steal, because they know they can't build anything on their own. That's why they stole the government. That's why they're using the power of the government to enrich themselves. They're trying to fund white supremacy for the next 100 years. And this is why it's critical that when we regain power of our country, we hold them all accountable. We seize all the assets that have been taken during this time, and we use those assets to promote universal education, universal health care, to build a better society, a fair society. Because all the people with wealth right now cheated. It's just a flat out fact. Because this whole structure of the system has been built on oppression and evil, and extracting all the power, everything that they can, all the value from somebody, while never letting those people enjoy the profits of their labors. You can't survive anymore in this society. It has to come down. Okay, let's keep going. Focus on ourselves. Yep, you're right. Give yourself permission to just stand up to evil. It's really what it comes down to. I'm sorry, I said evil again. There's Courtney. Give yourself permission to stand up to cruelty. So I appreciate that Courtney's name was there again. But her comment was exactly head on. So yeah, and these things aren't easy. A lot of this time too is like because I'm speaking from the heart now, so I have to reprogram some of those thoughts, and I have to rethink that idea about, you know, the word choices. Immoral. Thank you. I did it again. uh, and then we have, I saw grief is part of it. Yeah. And you're allowed to feel grief. I mean, you're allowed to feel sadness when people are cruel to you and they prove themselves to be something that other you thought them to be. You know, it's like you all know when you were little and somebody said, I'm really disappointed in you because you did something that showed you weren't what that person thought of you. And that feels bad. So listen to that. Don't deny your actions, change your actions and be better. Yeah, we gotta stop protecting cruelty. Oh, okay, Amber's praying to the data server so she can still hear this. The Watchmen, Natasha going yeah, that's okay, I mean, that show's pretty interesting, and yeah, I'm interested to hear what specifically came to mind or what I said that made you think of that, but yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Our education system is constantly under attack. We don't use critical thinking anymore. Somebody just mentioned that literacy rates have dropped like just an absurd amount. So we don't celebrate critical thought. Like the idea that we weren't allowed to ask questions about the Pennsylvania assassination, which I also think was fake. I mean, that should have been proven to us to our satisfaction. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, and if they can't prove it, they're lying. Yep, the old guard is racist. And again, keep it in your mind. The the pro the pro-life crowd is a white supremacy crowd. So they are out there. It's white supremacy. I mean, if you want to ensure all women have have access to prenatal care, that's perfect. And if you want to make sure they have enough money and they're out of abusive situations that they can afford that do all that. That'll end abortions. But if you're restricting the right of a woman to get the reproductive health care that'll save her life, particularly if there are complications, that's white supremacy. Using the law to stop action is white supremacy. Um, we have to do it through education and kindness and compassion. And it's just people just need to start saying that. We have to stop normalizing this idea that some people can have this pro-choice viewpoint. It's white supremacy. We have to stop teaching it. It's taught in religious schools. Teach it. They're teaching white supremacy, and our tax dollars fund that. That's inappropriate too. Yeah, we definitely have white woman allies, but and my wife talks about that being from Peru. She has a lot of white women who it's just but I mean, among all white people, there's just this indifference, and that's one of the things I really try to do is to figure out how to get through to the white community. The base of this white supremacy movement is the white voter. And if we can get through to them to make them recognize the pain they're inflicting on their fellow human beings, how they're responsible for it, we'll get there. I'm working on that. Judith, I would love to hear more thoughts from you on that and ways I can be better, things I'm missing. But I'll say things and I'll just see that that glaze come over a face where they just stop listening to you because you're saying things they've been indoctrinated themselves to not even hear. So that's an ongoing problem, bit by bit. Why would be surprised? The era they grew up in, they're no different. It's just ingrained. Yep. The white supremacy indoctrination is ingrained here. A lot of people have been kind of coming to me, and that's the case too, Judith, where I've had success with white women. There's a lot of them. And I'm a person who's come along on a journey too. There have been times when I've inadvertently and been frustrated, but it's like, this is what I've been told. And so you're angry with yourself. It's like, this is what I've been told. What's been wrong? Who's lied to me? So I've inadvertently promoted those things, and I talked with Will Fullwood about it. He's like, he has too. He's a racialized black man. He says, yes, but lies of white supremacy are just so surround us. It took me leaving and going to South America to see a lot of the things I assumed about humanity were just not true. And so, yeah, it's a constant thing, and I've gotten through to people. I've gotten through to white women in particular when I start talking about how white supremacy indoctrination happens in school. And a lot of people are open to that, and that's a good starting point for that conversation that then empowers people to find the examples of white supremacy in the rest of their life. Okay, I'm still going here. Yes, this valid. Good. I'm so happy, hippy dippy. I hope it feels good. And good morning, Kat. I kind of started off talking today because I was reflecting on your frustration with your talk yesterday, and I wanted to just kind of provide some means for you to be more powerful and to feel better and to get rid of that frustration and that illusion that we don't have power because it is an illusion. Uh, Refreshing. Good. I'm also beyond done with. Well, yeah, and that's why, yeah, we all do, though. I mean, we all have a lot of work to do. Thank you, Laura. You said it was a great insight. I hope it was something good. So thank you. Yeah, Natasha worked with the DNC. She said I questioned so many things and then realized that they're actually dumb. Well, it's not even that. They're deliberately sabotaging us. And then they come at you all haughty. And that's because they've indoctrinated themselves to the point where they believe something where they don't even question it. And if you try to make them question it, they reject it. It bounces off them. And I've been in this spot too. This is the real trick of our time. How do we penetrate that bubble of denial and get people to recognize something that they should see as true? Like, and the way that all these people were coming after me when I was like, well, Massey's trash because he voted for the Save Act. He's a horrible human being. And so many people are like, well, we got to give him credit for the Epstein transparency. We don't actually. We should reevaluate what he did there, what his motivations might have been. Because he just proved that he's an evil person. That Save Act is an evil person. That empowers pedophiles. Voting for that Save Act empowers pedophiles because it strips women of the right to vote. And that's the first way you create a culture of pedophiles is by stripping women of power. So Massey did that. So that we don't have to give him any credit for anything that came before that. The second you commit an atrocity like that, that's unforgivable. Everything that came before is washed away. And it's like now we go forward from there, but we don't go like, and that's the problem because so many people in the United States, they see somebody do something good, they're like, finally, and it's just wishful thinking because they think, oh, that person is redeemed. They're not redeemed. They're love bombing. They're just pretending to be on your side so that they can hurt you more. And once we understand that, and it's like there has to be a sequence of decent acts. There can't just be one decent act and then 10 evil acts, and where people lecturing me, telling me I'm wrong for pointing out the guy's evil, and they won't even hear my arguments as to why. That's really the mechanism of control that's in place. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it isn't new, but I mean, and this is part. I mean, child abuse is white supremacy too. I mean, these guys who feel that they're superior and they don't want to see any evidence to the contrary, they always prey on children, and that's why we have to oppose white supremacy in all its forms, including being very hostile about people who try to restrict access to reproductive health care because that gets women killed and it controls them. Yeah. So religion is control too, and I've been saying too, white supremacy is a perversion. It's a defilement of Christianity. It's actually, there is Roman Catholics, there's Protestantism, there's white supremacy. They're all forms of Christianity, and the Christians, then they hide under this. The white supremacists have defiled that religion so they can use evil, and the ones that are good have to speak out. But they're just all kind of in this quiet, like uncertainty where they refuse to say anything. But there's a religious war going on. All the people that ICE is rounding up right now are Roman Catholic. They're trying to murder all the Roman Catholics. You see among MAGA, they hate the Pope. And yeah, these religious wars are ongoing. So we could just say this Republican administration is targeting and arresting Christians. That's a factual thing to say. And if we do that, maybe some of these other churches in our area will start recognizing, gee, and maybe they'll start talking too. Uh, yeah, we got to bring them under our side. So this is, and I'm kind of mirroring like this big tent ideology. I'm kind of mirroring it, but the way the establishment, silver spoon Democrats do it is to sabotage us. They don't give tactics that actually work. Silver spoon Democrats are quite happy to bring white supremacists into the fold that drive out everybody else. I'm trying to make other people that are kind of in the middle or in the center recognize and reject white supremacy. But we need to have a gap. We can't have this big tent that covers half of the Republican Party. Instead, we need to have the radicalized ones extremely over here, and then we have to have our tent on the other side, and there have to be some space between us. We can't allow them to come in and infect us. So that's a change in our philosophy too. Immediate consequences. Margaret, I finally got to her saying hello. What the hell makes this happen so often psychologically? I think a lot of it's been normalized, but just look at the amount of money that hate language has. They have all the money. There's no money at all for decency. And yet the human heart endures. We're born decent, and they spend their entire lives using the resources of all of our labors to try and stamp out our basic decency. And that's like 90% of American ideology is that. And we're all trained from a very early age to tolerate it and become victims to it. And we have to remove it. All right. Has taken an oath on multiple occasions. It'd be great to hold people accountable when they break their oath. Yeah, I mean, we have a real problem with not prosecuting, and I think we're not prosecuting politicians because they're all so guilty at this point. That's why we need to primary them all. Oh my gosh, if we primaried them all, got in a whole new group of politicians who held the old ones responsible and started throwing them in jail. If we have like a 30% turnout for the primaries, they'll shit a brick and it will be glorious. Um, yeah, Yeah, George Washington did horrendous things. He pulled teeth out of people's heads. And I just don't believe anybody who held slaves did not physically rape them, and I think they all were child rapists, every founding father who, the slave owners. And the other ones too, probably. That was just the way it was. He's learning about the revolution. I had no clue. Civics right now, yeah. And yeah, this basic structures of governance, there's crazy. I almost said it again. I have to be better about that. I didn't realize how often that just came out of me. I have to be careful about my word choices. But, I find too, I think a lot of people that when I was critical of Massey, I think a lot of liberals don't go and read the votes. They don't see how these representatives votes. I think they just are like, well, they just wishful thinking. Well, they'll redeem themselves. They're actually secretly good. And they're just denying the evidence. These are supposed to be the scientific thinkers and the critical thinkers. And then when I provide that evidence, I had a couple that fact check me, and I'm like, great, go fact check me. Do it. And they're like, oh yeah, I fact checked that he's actually right about this. And because people don't they just get themselves where they don't even want to believe that Massey could have done that and voted against them. Well, he did. He did. Uh, oh boy. Madison writes, when I was 10 in the 90s, the pizza man gave me a letter asking me to come to a place for a naked photo shoot and left 20 in the envelope saying there's more where this came from. I didn't go, but some girls said yes to the money. And, that's something where if you'd report and the police probably be like, oh, yeah. It's just, so much of that is tolerated. Kat says personality disorder is disordered because it's abusive and addictive. Yeah, we should have more talks about the names for these disorders that are at work because I use like inappropriate terms sometimes. So I do have to fix that. I got to talk with neurodivergent hodgepodge. They wanted me to talk about that too. And I'm eager to learn about that and get my language better. Civics and history. Yeah. And we deliberately have taken civics out of education to disempower our kids. Okay, Courtney, I'm glad she took off. She probably left a long time ago. I don't know how many comments are here. Yep. I mean, there's so much history we just don't teach when you start reading. Start with the Reconstruction in Black America. That just put everything in place for me. And then going back prior to when the colonizers came, we don't denounce colonizers enough. And sometimes we give lip service to it, but the true cruelty of that is not often discussed. I was talking too about the sanitized history of fascism that we often teach, or even with things like Indiana Jones. It's like this cartoon version, or in Star Wars. And we just have to face the true horrors of it, because people want to deny the true horrors of what's going on. I mean, a year ago, if somebody's like they're eating babies, you'd be like, "Oh, that's just ridiculous." But then There's shit like that in the Epstein files if you've been reading. So we can't afford to pretend these things aren't happening anymore. Yeah, well, I don't understand how people can embrace white supremacy. Their hearts must be rotten, but it's American culture. And so much of what, and they hide it. They don't say this, I'm teaching you white supremacy. They're like, I'm teaching you American traditions. And you listen to things like the idea of American exceptionalism is white supremacy, manifest destiny is white supremacy. All these things are white supremacy. And just even standing for the national anthem is white supremacy. The third verse is it's anti it's about hunting down and murdering slaves. Um, so it's there and it gets programmed into us without our knowledge. And we're told just things that we think are normal parts of human life are not. They teach us human white supremacy as if that's how humans are. That's why people say things like, "Oh, human beings have always exploited each other. They've always been." All these are white supremacy lies designed to indoctrinate us, so we don't ask for a better world or don't demand one. And it takes a long time to undo all that cultural indoctrination. Yeah, that was extreme. Um, yeah, the MK Ultra stuff and the psyops. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's designed to program us, but you just always listen to your heart. And I think I gotta just have to scroll down to the end. I'm over time. Geez, these were good comments. Holy cow, you guys, you did great. Um, Let me end. I'll go down to the end. I think I gotta go and teach my or have breakfast. Yep, take some time off, Eric. Thank you. Yeah, and we have to hold them accountable. We have to stop acting as if it's wrong to hold cruel people accountable for their actions. They'll cry, they'll act as if they'll try to lever our basic sense of decency and make us think that we're wrong, that we should get them off the hook. But that goes away if we force ourselves to see the horrors of what they've done. We force ourselves to acknowledge it, view it. I've done that too. And that's what fortifies you and allows you to stand up and recognize that you have to stop the actions of these cruel people that are out of control. Uh, oh boy, yeah. People are putting in wonderful parts from history. I think that's it. I'm gonna kinda wind it up. If there's any, like, really super pressing question that I didn't get to, I had to kinda scroll down, but you guys were wonderful. Holy cow. I didn't, like, come in here having a specific thing to talk about. I think this was a really productive talk. It's kinda lined up a lot of my thoughts, but I want you all to leave feeling more empowered and recognizing that you do have the right to demand that people treat you nice, but listen to your heart. Listen to your heart, people. Yes, and feel empowered, feel seen, feel validated. Even in the Matrix, I just wrote this today. Even in the Matrix, they said, you know something's wrong, right? Everybody always knows something. We know something's wrong. American culture's wrong. It's a white supremacy culture. It normalizes and hides it, but it's come out into the light. That's been their fatal flaw. They come out. Derek wants to dance. We'll finish it. That's actually what I needed. I was getting all kind of burdened, and yeah, you do have to you have to dance a little bit to start feeling better because we've got massive things, we've got massive problems we have to solve. And you have to laugh, and that gives you your power back. And if you move, you remember your body is strong, and your mind is strong, and you get to make choices about what you believe. And you don't have to feel sadness and frustration because people refuse to redeem themselves. They just show you who they are. Now you oppose them, and you'll feel better. And when you have a choice about what action to take, don't listen to the abusers. Listen to the oppressed. Listen to them. Do what you can do to help the kids. Always act that way. What's better for the kids? Make every choice like that. And don't listen to what people are trying to tell you about how, because there never has to be cruelty now. There never has to be. Never, never, never. Never helps. That's another white supremacy lie that you have to hurt people in order for them to be better later. It's a lie. That's this indoctrination of cruelty that makes us go against the longings of our own hearts. You'll feel so much better and you'll have so much more power if you just listen to your heart. Do what you know to be right. Be kind to kids, be compassionate. Yeah, and yeah, don't be frustrated. Don't wait around. The frustration you feel is because you're waiting for evil people to redeem themselves before you act. You don't have to do that. Act now. Be kind today. Just do kind things. There it is again. Maya Angelou. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. That's absolutely true. Thank you, Judith, for that wonderful thing. Dance a little bit, dance it out, get rid of all that frustration, that ball of energy, go for a walk, do it. But I think that's it for today. Whew, thank you for this morning. I didn't think I would go this long, but it's wonderful. I'm gonna go. Yeah, Rest is Resistance. I just finished reading that, Amber. It's such a good book. I'll have to write about that. Everybody needs to read that. Yeah, stop listening. Stop bowing down to the oppressors, and instead, defend the oppressed, help the oppressed. But that's it. All right. Thank you, everybody. You guys are wonderful. I love you all. Be sure to sign up. This is my other mind, my general one. It's called Rise Together. We're gonna rise together. If you can afford to become a paid subscriber, that's wonderful, but all is free and will remain free because we're all in this together. Appreciate you all. Stay in that good fight, hippy dippy. It only gets better. Once you've resolved, the hardest part is resolving to act, and you've done that. So keep going, and wonderful things await you. Gets better and better and better. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Love you. Have a great Sunday. Get some rest today and listen to your heart today. Be kind to somebody. All right. Bye bye.